and welcome to Horror Rewind. This is Kelly Florence.
And I'm Meg Hofdahl.
And in this fast-forward episode, we're going to talk about the BBC America show, Killing Eve. Now, when we're recording this, today is the day that the Emmy nominations came out. And crazy fact, Sandra Oh is the first Asian woman to ever be nominated for lead actress in a drama. What?
It's crazy, and it's like, it's 2018. How is that possible? I think it's great. You know, there's been this sort of change where so many people of color now are starting to get more roles, and it's slowly happening, but it's shocking that it's taken this long, and I hope that this means that more Asian actors are going to find the roles for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that just blows my mind that fact is true and where we are in our lives. So, congratulations, Sandra. Oh, well deserved. If you haven't watched Killing Eve, know that this will be spoiler filled. And so, you know, don't spoil yourselves if you don't want to. So, Killing Eve is a little bit of procedural, it's a little bit of spy, it's a little bit of crime. How would you describe it?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's sort of, in the beginning, kind of feels like a traditional sort of British procedural. It could go that way. It kind of feels like it could be that way. And I'm the type of person, like, if I hear, like, Russian and espionage, like, I'm asleep. Like, I don't care. I don't care about any of that. Like, those things are not interesting to me. Like, a Russian spy and, like, we're gonna, like, infiltrate the government or any of that. Like, I don't like that stuff. How about you?
You know what you just did, Meg? You took my heart that has the Americans tattooed on it and you just stabbed it with a penknife.
Well, and that's why, I mean, I think that's why I haven't watched The Americans yet, because, like, you tell me those things and I'm like, it's like what I was saying before with drugs, like, I'm just like it just makes me fall asleep. But I'm watching this show and I love it, so it's just like what we were talking about before, having to force yourself, like, sometimes, even if it has those keywords that you're just like, ugh, no. But I ended up loving this first season and of Killing Eve and getting into it. So sometimes we just have to, like, it's like taking vitamins or eating our vegetables. We have to just be like, okay, it has espionage in it, but it could be good.
Yeah, that's true. I love vegetables, but, you know, some people don't, so.
Oh, fuck you.
Well, I would hope I love vegetables. I'm a vegetarian. But Killing Eve, Sandra Oh's character, she's working for MI5, and in her spare time, she has a fascination with female assassins and women who are killers. And as soon as I saw that scene when I watched this for the first time, I'm like, Meg will love this.
Yeah, I mean, I think what makes me love the series as a whole is Sandra Oh's character. She's so accessible, and especially to me, I get fixated particularly on female killers, and she has that interest, and she's so real and human, and she very much is fascinated by the similar things. So yeah, right away I was like, okay, she's a sister in the true crime world. Like, I loved it right away.
The very first scene when we're introduced to her, we just get this shot of her face and she's screaming in bed. And immediately what I thought was happening, and maybe we're made to believe is happening, is that, like, she's having a PTSD episode because she was in Afghanistan or something. But she just fell asleep on her arms because she came home drunk from karaoke.
Yeah, they really, right away, they sort of subvert your expectations of, we've all, I'm assuming, probably seen, you know, the Luthers and, like, the really dramatic British TV shows, and this is funnier and lighter overall. So even though there are deaths and lots going on and there's important, you know, poignant moments, it overall is a lighter, kind of more lighthearted sort of version of that.
Speaking of one of those later moments, when she's getting recruited for MI6, Fiona Shaw Carolyn Martin's character is her name in the show. She produces this file, and Sandra Oh's really nervous. She's like, "We found this on your computer," and it's pictures upon pictures of dead bodies and people who have been killed. And Sandra Oh's like, "Oh, thank God! I thought you were gonna show me a file of pictures I had taken of Frank eating," and that's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, it just kind of goes into that whole idea of that she's accessible and a real person, and she reacts to things in a real way, and yeah, she's funny.
Can you tell us a little background on the Villanelle novels that this show is based on? Did you look it up?
Yeah, I'm on Goodreads right now, and I'm looking up, it looks like there's quite a few books. Codename Villanelle by Luke Jennings. There's quite a few of them. People here are giving it good reviews. Oh, wait, no, this person called it a mediocre novel. So, everybody's got their opinions. Actually, yeah, there's some low ratings on here saying that the show's way better, so...
And so what my cursory glance, I noticed somebody said the novels and at episode 4, and then the showrunner Phoebe, what's her name now? Phoebe something Wallace. Don't look that up too. Sorry. Has taken a different direction than the novels. Well, because they end at that point, and everybody is saying the show is better than the books, which is rarely the case. It's usually the book was better.
Yeah, usually the book was better. Although I think there's like this weird thing going on. Like, for instance, like with Game of Thrones, it's like now that the show has gone past what George R.R. Martin did, I feel like he's like getting sort of nervous and anxious, and he doesn't know what to do. And it's sort of like, it's interesting to sort of see the interplay between a TV show and a series that is still going on. So I wonder if this Luke Jennings is going to keep writing this series, or if he's going to be like George R. R. Martin, sit on his hands for a while, or what?
We were just talking about George R. R. Martin yesterday, and what the heck? It's been so long since the book came out, and I saw an article titled, his 10 summer read picks for this summer, and I was like, what are you doing? Why aren't you writing?
Yeah, I as someone who, this is my career, and obviously I'm no George R. R. Martin, so maybe he's allowed to sort of sit on his laurels for a while, but I feel like the pressure's on, and he's not really meeting his quotas.
Yeah, definitely. One other show it reminded me of that ended or took a different direction because the books didn't come out soon enough was Charlaine Harris's True Blood series. And, they definitely went a different direction within the show than they did in the novels. So, I mean, whatever, to each their own, and we'll see what happens. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the showrunner and has adapted this for TV. It's a woman. There are female leads galore and female characters galore in this show, and obviously, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what drew me in. I mean, it had some, like I said, it had some things in it where it's like, oh, I don't know if I can watch this. But the fact that it was all of a sudden lighthearted beginning, I was like, okay, this is going to be good. And then the fact that Sandra Oh carries the show, not to mention Jodie Comer, who plays Villanelle. She's amazing. And so we have the antagonist, the protagonist, both women. We have the big time boss is a woman. So many of the side characters are women. And it sort of makes you realize how many Sausage Fest shows I'm watching all the time. Like, yeah. Actually seeing it makes you realize, like, wow, I'm just usually watching men do all of this.
Exactly. And even the male characters that are in this, her coworker Bill, who's her boss, and then her subordinate in MI6 now, he's pansexual. He talks about how he's been with men and women, and so he's not just like this heterosexual male, like white male. He's got more to him. The typical heterosexual white male is like a doofus. I'm just speaking of Frank, and I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you could write an article called "The Annihilation of Men" in this, because I mean, literally, Villanelle chops penises off. So I mean, I think we're just saying we don't need them here. I mean, there's also Kenny is his name. He's a great male character who's a good guy, and he's actually helping, and he's not a complete doofus. But he's also in the business because of nepotism, which is kind of interesting.
I think it's episode 2. Villanelle is completing an assassination, and the thing that struck me about this moment and how they shot it, can't you imagine any other show where they're showing a female assassin killing a man and she's standing over him, that she's wearing some sort of Tomb Raider-esque thing where we're definitely seeing cleavage, maybe even under boob, and we're seeing her legs that go for miles. They never show her or shoot her in a sexual over-sexualized way.
That's a good point. I actually didn't even consciously realize that, but you're right. They're not fetishizing her body at any point. Like, she's just... And she's fascinating. She's a psychopath, obviously, but she's given some pretty interesting character traits. And it's not like, oh, she's a female assassin, so that's enough quirk. I mean, she's actually given a personality and a backstory and everything. And she is bisexual, which is interesting too, because it actually provides even more female characters to be in the story. And circling back to Bill, that character, he sort of functions in a lot of ways as women do in TV shows and movies, in that he dies in order, let's admit, in order to sort of bring Eve's character even deeper into this world and make her even more upset and sort of get her even more determined to find Villanelle. So I like that he was sort of used in the way that women are used in almost every show.
Exactly. And there was another scene we were just watching today that it's the husband and wife scene. Typically, it's the wife pleading with her husband, or the wrestler or boxer's wife, like that character on SNL, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like saying like, oh, don't do it. You know, I want you to be safe and stay home and take care of the kids. But Nico is saying, I'm scared for you in this job. I don't want you to be murdered. And she's like, no, I'm going to work.
Yeah, so a lot of this is sort of flipped around, and so it's fun. It's fun to watch as a woman. You know, it's like it kind of comes back to so many women talking about when the Ghostbusters remake came out, and there's this moment when Kate McKinnon's character has near the climax or at the climax, she has this amazing moment, and so many women are like, "Oh my god, I got goosebumps," and all we want is to watch stories about us too. We're half of the population, and all we want are stories about complicated women that are not perfect. You know, I wrote recently about this sort of idea of the kick-ass woman, and she is just as fake as anyone. This idea that women need to be, if they're going to be a protagonist in a movie, that they need to know how to kick someone's ass, and that they're strong, and like they're physically strong, and that they are Ripley. And that's all well and good, but I need more like Eve characters in my life, that when she first sort of has her first sort of actual meeting with the assassin, she freaks out and screams and runs up the stairs and doesn't know what to do, and it takes a while for her to really like figure out what to do, and that's real. She's a real person, and that's the female characters that I want, and that I think we all want.
And the writing is so well done too, because it's not like they have this super witty dialogue. Eve's just trying to get to the bottom of things and asks real questions, and it's not like, oh, this dialogue is so clever and quick and David Mamet like, or you know, I assume, you know, some people compare that, or not Aaron Spelling,
Gilmore Girls.
Oh yeah, like Amy Sherman Palladino, or it was who's the guy who created Ally McBeal?
I don't fucking know.
Well, anyway, I think that was David E. Kelly. Anyway, the guy who wrote the Newsroom with
Sorkin.
Aaron Sorkin. He's always being applauded for his witty, quick dialogue. But life isn't like that all the time. it hardly ever is like that, probably for most people, and especially in this moment. I appreciated that it wasn't this meeting of the minds that like took it to a different place.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like again, it's that reality. Like even this assassin has moments where she's sort of a real human being, even though she has this sort of psychopathic tendency to kill people and not feel an emotional response to it. She still does have an emotional response to other things, and she doesn't always know the right thing to say, and Eve doesn't always know the right thing to say. And so you're right. It's grounded in reality.
Yeah, I love it. Some of my favorite things about the show, just aesthetically, every time they go to a new city, they have the city across the screen in all capital letters, and it's just like the title page for the title of the show. And I just love that. And she's traveling everywhere, and she's killing these people. We don't know why, of course, until later, who she works for. At one point, Eve asks her who she works for, and she said, if you go far enough up, we probably work for the same people. And they basically do.
Yeah, they do. And that comes around to about 2 episodes in. Like, I was like pulling my hair out because she kept leaving her fingerprints everywhere. And I was like, okay, how is she still operating? And of course we come to learn that she's being very much protected by the government, and she can go around and leave her fingerprints everywhere. So it's a very complicated story. It's like very intricate, but it's also lighthearted and I hate to say fun, but it is. It's fun too, and a lot of that is because of Sandra Oh. I hope she wins. I'm not really too into awards lately. For me, I just feel like there are so many great shows, and I try not to let the Emmys like dictate what I care about or whatever. But good for her, and I hope she wins because she deserves it.
Yeah, I know. It's so good, and she's so great. Did you watch her in Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah.
You're still watching Grey's Anatomy.
That's my dark, deep secret. I still watch Grey's Anatomy. It's a soap opera. But she was great on that show. She's been off of it, I think, for like 3 years or something. Her character actually lives in Vienna. So that was her storyline. They didn't kill her off. She's one of the few that she didn't get killed off.
Okay, well, that's interesting. The other people in this show, you mentioned Jodie Comer?
I think that's her name. I IMDb'd her. She's such a young baby.
Yeah, she's hardly been in anything because is young.
Yeah, it says she was born in 93. I'm like, oh, you precious little child. Another great Sandra Oh is Sideways. She's great in that movie.
Oh.
I love that.
Fiona Shaw is the MI6 lady, and everyone will recognize from Harry Potter, of course, and she's been in a million things too.
She was in True Blood you were just talking about.
Yes, that's true. So I just can't get over the characters and the diversity in casting, and just so many funny things, and then so many poignant things. Part of Villanelle's backstory, and we don't know everything about her childhood yet, but we do know what this teacher that she was in love with, and the teacher was in love with her too, and she wrote letters to her, and then she thought she's been dead all these years. And when she finds out that Villanelle's not dead, don't you think it wasn't terror, it was hope?
Even though Villanelle killed her husband, yeah, she was like, oh, you could see it on her face. It was like, yeah, hope's the perfect way to put it. I think she still loved her.
And there was another moment in that same conversation when she was talking about how Villanelle killed her husband. But then she says, and then they arrested her and they took away my life. But then she switches it up and she catches herself and she's like, I lost Max. But I think she was talking about that she was arrested, the love of her life, this woman.
Yeah, that was very nuanced, and I think that Eve was catching onto those things too, and that sort of led her to ask as she was leaving, like, did you have sex with her? And that was really awkward, and the lady slammed the door in her face. And that was actually a moment I really liked Eve, because I was like, it was so awkward and like not the right time to say it, but she's just so eager to like move the sort of progress this pursuit that she did it anyway.
all of these little meetups that she has with Fiona Shaw throughout, like especially in the beginning, are so awkward, and she doesn't really know how to act or what to say, and she is the kind of person that's trying to fill the silence or make the awkward conversation, and it's emphasis on the word awkward. They're like standing looking at sausages, and she's not sure if she should talk about them. She's not sure if she should buy milk at the store when they're having their first meeting. And then even when they meet at the restaurant, she's like trying to see what sort of small talk she should do. And Fiona Shaw's getting down to business.
Yeah, I think we all, like, again, in that Kick-Ass Woman, like, we all want to be this Fiona Shaw where it's like, you're just so fucking cool. But let's be honest, if we were, like, thrown into this and we all of a sudden are, like, being a spy, I mean, think of how lame and awkward we actually would be.
Yes. Another scene happening towards the end of the season 1 is we get to see them travel to Russia together, Eve and Carolyn. And Carolyn's getting dolled up because she has slept with both these men. And I think she sleeps with both of them while she's there, like within this episode too, or at least Konstantin. And how often do we get to see older women be flirty or be sexual or, you know, come and do the walk of shame because they slept with a man and they have to come home in the same clothes? Like, do you ever see that?
No, like, I can't even on the top of my head think about it. And it's usually a joke. It's usually, like, treated as, like, that's so ridiculous anybody would want to have sex with anybody above 50, you know? So it's nice to just see it as sort of the tableau, part of the tableau of who she is, as well as that she's a slob, which was fun, too.
Yeah. Kenny and Eve walk into her hotel room, and it looks trashed. Like, they've looked for something, and she's been murdered. But and they're like, what happened to your room? She's like, what? What about it?
That's what my hotel room always looks like.
I think the progression is nice. We get to meet all these characters from the past this whole time that she's in prison. Did you feel like Konstantin was betraying her and she was going to be stuck in prison? What do you think?
That's what I thought at the time, yeah. You know, it's one of those things where it's hard to predict or understand the motives of somebody like him, so I still don't entirely understand, I mean, completely what his motives are. But
you have to learn more about the 12, Meg.
I know, there's so much to learn. You know me and...
Lesbian.
Yeah, I love these government organizations. That's my favorite.
Her favorite X-Files episodes were ones that dealt with the Syndicate.
Yeah, right.
Is that what they were called? Like, I care so little, I don't even know what they're called.
Yeah, the Syndicate. Yeah, with the well-manicured man.
Oh, boy. Well, I hope there's some women in the 12. That's all I have to say. No, it's been fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of Eve's relationship with this teacher, Anna, Anna talked about how her dream was always to live in Paris, and now Villanelle is living out that dream in honor of Anna. And when Eve gets to her apartment at the end, she has kept all of her clothes that she stole from her in Berlin, and I feel like she's almost making room for her to move in. Like, and did you feel like they were gonna make out and it would end on that sort of cliffhanger?
So first, I didn't realize that those were her clothes. I guess I didn't make that connection. So here was my thinking. I'm like, if they make out right now, like, I'm out, because then I don't know her character. Like, I don't know Eve. Like, that's how I felt. I was like, I was a little worried they're gonna make out, and I was like, if they make out, like, this means there's been certain movies or, you know, shows where you're so invested in a character and then they just take such a left turn that you just can't really, like, you can't turn with them. And that was one of those things where I was like, if she starts making out with her, then everything I thought I knew about her, I don't know. And then that would make me feel really, like, cheated or something. So I was very glad that she was not taken in and seduced. I think she's seduced by female killers, which that's why I loved her, and I find that fascinating. So I was very happy when she took the initiative and she stabbed her. That was awesome.
So yes, I think the setup is good because it's sort of this gut punch of like, wait, Eve, you're better than this. You know better. And for the audience to be in panic for a moment. And also we know that we can never trust Villanelle. I mean, she ran over her ex-girlfriend with the car after she told her they were going to go fly a kite at the beach. So we don't, we have zero trust for her, but then she grabbed that switchblade too, and it's like, she still has that in her pocket. And yes, it came into play, and she stabbed her.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great bloody moment, and you can see Villanelle was not expecting that. She really thought they were going to make out.
Yeah.
So she was really caught off guard, and that was a great moment. And then it was also great because then Eve started to sort of freak out, like, oh my God, I just stabbed somebody, and what does that mean? And it was a real, even though it's such a heightened world, and there's I want to say the syndicate, the 12, and, all that going on, there's still this, like, reality of what it would be like to actually stab somebody and actually trying to help them, and sort of all the emotions that you could just see it going through her, everything.
I thought it was perfectly handled too. It wasn't, I feel like so many movies or TV shows would just be like, she'd have this perfect one-liner and stab her and like watch her soul enter her body even more, as Villanelle said. Souls do. But instead it was like, oh my God, okay, I'm going to help you. And then she escapes. And so obviously season 2 has been picked up, and I mean, she's going to still be alive.
I feel like this just came out, so I feel like season 2 is going to take forever, and I'm not going to remember anything that happened, and I know I'm whining, but I want it right now.
Yeah, I agree. What else do you want to say about Killing Eve?
Only that BBC America is like becoming a cool channel. Yeah. I like it. I hadn't really ever watched it until we started watching the X-Files marathons on it.
Okay, we were, and this is like, it's not Freudian, or maybe it is, but I thought it said Lust Marathon.
It was an X-Files UST marathon, meaning unresolved sexual tension, but on the commercial we thought it said Lust, because if you see UST and they were like, showing all the shippy moments, I think it means the same thing.
I know, it does, and it was wonderful. But yeah, BBC America, go you.
Yeah, that's great. It's nice to find new channels with great content on it. So, and I love that, by the way, that she's an American in this situation, which I think is cool, and they don't have to explain everything, and it kind of gives us, I guess that's why it can be on BBC America.
Yeah, true. I love the show. We're going to rank season 1 of Killing Eve on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being you hated it, 10 being it's a perfect TV show. What should we use? Some things that come to mind. I think of that hairpin that she killed the second guy with that we saw. What do you think of? Bottles of champagne?
Yeah, I feel like there's got to be something better. But let's do the hairpin.
Okay. 0 to 10 hairpins. How many do you give Killing Eve season 1?
I give it 8 hairpins. It was really good, female driven, complicated female characters. It's fast paced, it's funny, well written, well shot. Love it.
And I'm giving it 9 hairpins. I too loved it. And here's my confession. This is the 3rd time I've watched it through. I watched it once on my own, once with Mark, and now with you. But I love it.
Holy shit. You probably picked up on a bunch of stuff I didn't.
I did see new things. So just so you know, you can watch it again and pick up new things. It's great. So watch new TV shows. Let us know what you're watching. Until next time, we'll see you in the horror section.